The massive alien ships appeared at the edge of the solar system like dark clouds blocking out the stars. 50,000 warships moved in perfect formation, each one bigger than a city. Their hulls gleamed with strange metals that reflected. No light, and weapons that could crack planets jutted from every surface like deadly thorns. Admiral Kextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion's Edge. His 4 eyes studied the primitive solar system before him. 3 arms crossed over his chest in satisfaction. This would be another easy conquest for the great Zephyrian Empire. "Begin standard intimidation protocol," he ordered his crew. His voice carried the authority of someone who had conquered 47 worlds without a single defeat. "Show these primitives what real power looks like." On Earth, President Jake Morrison sat in the White House Situation Room watching the alien fleet on the main screen. The room should have been filled with panic. Military officials should have been shouting orders. People should have been crying or praying or running in circles. Instead, Jake Morrison smiled. Defense Secretary Lisa Grant sat next to him, also smiling. Admiral Pete Collins of the Joint Chiefs looked at his watch and nodded to himself. The other officials in the room seemed almost relaxed, like they were watching a movie they had seen many times before. "Sir," said the communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the alien fleet." "Put it on screen," Morrison said. Still smiling, Admiral Kextar appeared on the monitor. He was tall and thin with gray skin and those 4 strange eyes. When he spoke, his voice was cold and commanding. "Primitive beings of the 3rd planet," Kextar began. "I am Admiral Kextar of the mighty Zephyrian Empire. We have come to claim your world and your people. You will surrender immediately and join our empire. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your planet. You have 1 of your days to comply." The transmission ended. The Situation Room was quiet for a moment. Then someone started laughing. Soon, half the room was chuckling softly. "Lisa," Morrison said to his defense secretary, "please send our response." "Lisa." Grant opened a folder marked with symbols that looked like no language on Earth. She typed quickly on her computer, then looked up at the communications officer. "Send this message," she said. "Welcome to our solar system. We have been expecting you for quite some time. Please make yourselves comfortable while we prepare our formal response. We should have everything ready within 72 hours. Thank you for your patience." On the alien flagship, Kextar stared at the human response in confusion. His tactical officer Veloth turned all 4 eyes toward his commander. "Admiral, this response is unusual," Veloth said. "Most primitive species either beg for mercy or attack us immediately. These humans seem almost happy to see us." Kextar waved a dismissive hand. "They are too primitive to understand their situation. 72 hours to surrender? Very well. It will give us time to study their defenses. Begin deep scans of their planets and moons." What the Zephyrians saw on their scanners made them even more confident. Earth had cities but no visible planetary defense systems. A few space stations orbited the planet, but they looked like simple research facilities. Some ships moved between the planets, but they were small and clearly not military vessels. "Admiral," reported the science officer, "their technology appears to be several centuries behind ours. Their largest ships are smaller than our fighters. They have no energy shields, no plasma weapons, no faster-than-light drives. This will be our easiest conquest yet." But the Zephyrians missed something important. While their powerful scanners searched for weapons and ships, they did not notice the small coded messages being sent across Earth. Dr. Amy Watson was teaching her college class about ancient civilizations when her phone buzzed. She looked at the message and her heart started beating faster. After 150 years, the day had finally come. "Class dismissed early today," she told her students. "Family emergency." As soon as the students left, Amy walked to her office and opened what looked like a normal filing cabinet. Inside was a hidden panel with buttons and lights. She pressed a sequence of buttons she had memorized years ago across the country in New Mexico. Construction worker Bob Martinez got the same coded message. He told his crew he was taking a sick day and drove his truck to what everyone thought was a water treatment plant outside of town. Bob had worked construction for 20 years, but that was just his cover job. His real work was about to begin. In Vermont, librarian Carol Jenkins closed the public library 2 hours early. She put up a sign that said, "Computer Maintenance," and went down to her basement. But her basement was not like other basements. Hidden behind fake walls was an elevator that went down much deeper than any basement should go. All across Earth, similar scenes played out. A teacher in Texas, a mechanic in California, a nurse in Florida. Thousands of ordinary people with ordinary jobs received the same message and went to places that were not what they seemed to be. President Morrison stood up in the Situation Room. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "Operation Homecoming begins now. Contact all department heads. Wake up the colonies. And someone please call General Rodriguez. Tell him his fleet is needed." Admiral Collins picked up a red phone that had never been used before. "Mars Base Alpha, this is Earth Command. Please respond." A voice crackled through the speaker. "Earth Command, this is Colonel Steve Parker on Mars Base Alpha. We have been waiting for your call for 43 years. Mars Base Alpha is ready. All 2.3 million personnel are at battle stations." Lisa Grant opened another classified file. "Jupiter Forward Base, Saturn Defense Station, asteroid mining operations. Please report status." One by one, voices responded from across the solar system. Bases that the Zephyrians had not detected. Colonies that did not appear on any scan. Military installations that had been hidden for decades. On the alien flagship, Admiral Kextar was becoming less confident. His sensors were picking up strange energy readings from across the human solar system. Communications traffic had increased dramatically. Most puzzling of all, the humans seemed to be getting ready for something, and it did not look like surrender. "Admiral," Viloth said nervously, "I am detecting movement throughout their system. Ships are changing course. Energy signatures are increasing. It appears they are mobilizing." Kextar studied the scanner readings. "Impossible. Our intelligence reports showed this species has barely achieved faster-than-light communication. They should not be capable of system-wide coordination, but the scanners did not lie. All across the solar system, humanity was waking up, and they were not preparing to surrender. They were preparing for war." The water treatment plant in New Mexico looked normal from the outside. Bob Martinez had driven past it 1,000 times during his 20 years of construction work. But as he walked through the front door with his special keycard, everything changed. The floor opened up like a giant mouth. Bob stepped onto a platform that lowered him down into the earth. The walls around him were not concrete and pipes like a real water plant. They were metal and covered with screens and blinking lights. Armed guards in military uniforms saluted him as he reached the bottom. "Welcome to Bunker Complex Delta 7, Commander Martinez," said a woman in a general's uniform. "We have been waiting a long time for this day." Bob smiled and straightened his shoulders. After 20 years of pretending to be just a construction worker, he could finally be himself again. "Status report, General Hayes," he said. "North American Planetary Defense Grid is fully operational. All weapon systems are online. We have 600 underground facilities just like this one, all connected by tunnels. The aliens have no idea. We exist 3,000 miles away in Vermont." Carol Jenkins stepped out of her basement elevator into a room that looked like something from a science fiction movie. Hundreds of people sat at computer screens, talking quietly into headsets. Giant monitors on the walls showed maps of the solar system with thousands of moving dots. "Welcome back, Admiral Jenkins," said a man in a Navy uniform. "Strategic Command Post Omega is ready for your orders." Carol had been the town librarian for 15 years, but before that she had been one of the youngest admirals in human history. She had helped design the defense plan that was now coming to life. "Show me our fleet positions," she ordered. The main screen changed to show the space around Earth. What looked empty to alien scanners was actually full of human ships. They had been hiding behind planets, inside asteroids, and under special shields that made them invisible. "My God," Carol whispered. "We actually did it. We actually built all this." In Ohio, Dr. Amy Watson walked through hallways that existed far below her university. Research Facility Alpha was bigger than the entire campus above it. Scientists in white coats worked at tables covered with strange devices and glowing crystals. "Professor Watson," called Dr. Ellen Price, the facility director, "the weapons testing is complete. Our new plasma cannons are 30% more powerful than anything the Zephyrians have." Amy looked at the weapons with pride and sadness. 150 years ago, we picked up radio signals from alien civilizations. We learned they were not peaceful explorers. They were conquerors, so we decided to get ready. "The hard part was keeping it secret," Dr. Price said. "Millions of people working on this project for 6 generations. Building bases, training soldiers, developing weapons. All while pretending to be normal farmers and teachers and mechanics." Back in the White House Situation Room, President Morrison was talking to people who were not supposed to exist. The main screen showed a man in a military uniform standing in what looked like a command center on another planet. "Mars Base Alpha reporting, Mr. President," said Colonel Steve Parker. "All personnel are ready. We have been living and training here for 40 years, waiting for this moment." Morrison nodded. "What is your current strength, Colonel?" 2.3 million military personnel and their families, sir. We have been building weapons and ships in the underground factories. The aliens think Mars is just a dead planet with a few research stations." Another screen lit up. This one showed a woman floating in zero gravity inside a space station. "Jupiter Forward Base reporting," said Commander Helen Perry. "Our ships are hidden behind the planet's moons." The Zephyrians flew right past us without noticing. A third screen showed a man in a mining helmet. "Asteroid belt operations here," said Captain Betty Foster. "We have been hollowing out space rocks for decades and turning them into weapons platforms. The aliens think we are just miners." Admiral Kekstar stood on his bridge, watching his sensor screens with growing confusion. The energy readings from the human solar system were getting stronger. His science officer Veloth was studying the data with all 4 eyes wide with concern. "Admiral, I am detecting massive power sources throughout their system," Veloth reported, "but our scanners show nothing there. It is as if the humans have found a way to hide entire facilities from our sensors." "Impossible," Kekstar said. "No primitive species has cloaking technology that advanced. Sir, there is something else. I am picking up radio transmissions between their planets. The signals suggest they have permanent colonies on multiple worlds, not just temporary research stations." Kekstar felt the first touch of doubt. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered 47 worlds, but they had all been single-planet civilizations. If the humans had spread across their entire solar system, this conquest would be much more difficult. Admiral, his communications officer, called out, "We are receiving another transmission from the humans. Put it on screen." President Morrison appeared again, but this time he was not alone. Behind him stood military officers from every branch of the human armed forces. The smile was gone from his face. "Admiral Kekstar of the Zephyrian Empire," Morrison said in a cold voice, "thank you for waiting. We have finished preparing our response to your surrender demand." Kekstar leaned forward. "Finally, these primitives were going to beg for mercy." "Our response is no," Morrison continued. "We do not surrender. Instead, we offer you the chance to surrender to us. You have 1 hour to consider our offer." The transmission ended. The bridge of the Zephyrian flagship was silent for a long moment. "Did those primitives just demand that we surrender to them?" asked Veloth in disbelief. Before Kekstar could answer, his tactical officer screamed a warning. "Admiral, ships decloaking throughout the system. Massive energy signatures coming online. They have been hiding an entire fleet." On the main screen, space around Earth began to fill with human warships. They appeared from behind asteroids, rose up from planetary surfaces, and materialized out of empty space. Hundreds of ships, then thousands. Then tens of thousands. The Zephyrian sensors counted 25,000 human warships, then 50,000. The numbers kept climbing. 75,000 ships and still counting, Veloth whispered. How is this possible? Our intelligence said they barely had space travel. Admiral Kekstar stared at the screen in shock. In 150 years of conquest, the Zephyrian Empire had never encountered anything like this. These humans had not only been expecting them, they had been preparing for them. Admiral, his communications officer said nervously, the humans are sending another message. On screen, Admiral Collins appeared in what was clearly the command center of a massive space station. Behind him, tactical displays showed the positions of both fleets. Admiral Kekstar, Collins said calmly, your hour begins now. I suggest you use it wisely. You came here expecting to conquer primitives. Instead, you have found humans. We have been waiting for you for 150 years. The transmission ended, leaving the Zephyrian bridge in stunned silence. For the first time in his long career, Admiral Kekstar began to wonder if he had made a terrible mistake. The hour passed like a slow heartbeat. Admiral Kekstar paced his bridge while his officers watched the human fleet on their screens. 75,000 human ships hung in space around their planets like angry hornets protecting their nest. Admiral, his tactical officer said quietly, the humans are not responding to our communication attempts. The hour is almost up. Kekstar stopped pacing. In his long career, he had never backed down from a fight. The Zephyrian Empire did not retreat. They conquered or they died trying. All ships prepare for battle, he commanded. Standard Imperial formation. We will show these primitives what happens when they refuse the generosity of our empire. The 50,000 ships of the Zephyrian fleet moved into attack formation. Their massive hulls gleamed with weapon ports opening like deadly flowers. Energy shields flickered to life around each vessel. On the human command station Washington's Shield, Admiral Collins watched the alien fleet prepare for battle. He had studied every military engagement in human history, from ancient wars with swords and arrows to modern conflicts with nuclear weapons. He knew what the aliens were going to do before they did it. All units, this is Collins, he spoke into his communicator. Execute strategy Sherman's march. Repeat, execute Sherman's march. Across the human fleet, Captain smiled grimly. They all knew what Sherman's march meant. It was named after an old American general who believed in total war. Hit the enemy. Everywhere at once. Never give them time to think or plan or recover, Captain Tony Rodriguez commanded, a wing of human fighters near the outer edge of the solar system. His ships looked small and weak compared to the massive alien warships. When the Zephyrian fleet began their attack, Tony did exactly what the aliens expected him to do. He ran. All fighters, retreat toward the asteroid belt, Tony ordered his. Pilots, make it look good, act scared. The human fighters turned and fled toward the outer planets, their engines glowing bright as they pushed for maximum speed. Behind them, 1,000 Zephyrian warships gave chase, their commanders laughing at the cowardly humans. These primitives have no fighting spirit, sneered Commander Zaltok as he led the pursuit. They show us their fleet and then run at the first sign of battle. The human fighters led their pursuers deeper into the asteroid belt, weaving between giant space rocks that had been floating there for millions of years. The Zephyrian ships followed, confident in their superior speed and firepower. Tony Rodriguez checked his watch. 3 minutes until they reached the trap zone. He switched to a private channel to speak with Commander Susan Blake, who had been waiting in the asteroid belt for 30 years. Susan, this is Tony, a package delivery in 3 minutes. Roger that, Tony. We are ready to receive your package. The Zephyrian ships chasing the human fighters did not know that many of the asteroids around them were not natural rocks. For 30 years, human engineers had been hollowing out space rocks and filling them with weapons. Hidden plasma cannons and missile launchers waited inside fake asteroids. Invisible to alien scanners, when Tony's fighters reached the center of the belt, he gave the signal. All units, execute trap protocol now. The asteroids came alive. Weapon ports opened in rocks that had looked dead and empty. Plasma beams and missiles erupted from every direction, catching the Zephyrian ships in a deadly crossfire. "Ambush!" screamed Commander Zaltak as his flagship shook under enemy fire. "We are surrounded. How did they hide weapons in asteroids?" But the real surprise was still coming. On Earth, Major Downright sat in a control room deep underground, watching displays that showed the position of the sun and special satellites that had been orbiting it for decades. "Project Prometheus is ready," he reported to Admiral Collins. "All solar focusing arrays are locked onto enemy positions." Collins nodded. "Execute Prometheus." The satellites around the sun were not weather monitors or research stations like they appeared to be. They were giant mirrors and focusing lenses that could concentrate the power of the star itself into weapons. Solar energy that had been traveling through space for millions of years was gathered and aimed at the Zephyrian fleet. Beams of pure sunlight, focused and concentrated, struck the alien ships like the hammer of an angry god. The energy that powered an entire solar system was turned into a weapon that could cut through alien armor like a hot knife through butter. Admiral Kekstar watched in horror as his ships began exploding under the solar assault. "Where are those beams coming from?" he demanded. "Admiral, they are using their own star as a weapon," his science officer reported in disbelief. "They have somehow learned to focus stellar energy into coherent beams." On the bridge of the human command station, Admiral Collins opened a communication channel to the Zephyrian flagship. His voice was calm and professional. "Admiral Kekstar, this is Admiral Collins. You are fighting a losing battle. Your ships are designed to conquer primitive worlds that have never seen real war. But humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We have turned warfare into an art form." Kekstar appeared on the screen, his 4 eyes wide with shock and growing fear. "This is impossible. Your technology should be centuries behind ours." "Our technology is behind yours," Collins agreed. "But we have had 150 years to study your ships, your weapons, and your tactics from the radio signals you broadcast across space. We know how you fight because we have been listening to your battles for 6 generations. Every time your empire conquered a world, we recorded it. Every weapon you used, every tactic you employed, every mistake you made. We have fought this battle in our computer simulations 10,000 times. We know what you are going to do before you do it." More Zephyrian ships exploded under the combined assault of hidden asteroid weapons and focused solar beams. Their perfect formation was breaking apart as captains tried to escape the trap they had flown into. Colonel Mary Thompson commanded the Titan Defense Squadron near Saturn. Her ships had been waiting behind the giant planet's rings, invisible to enemy sensors. Now she led them into battle, but not the kind of battle the aliens expected. Instead of attacking with weapons, her ships broadcast something else. They transmitted recordings of Zephyrian radio communications that humans had intercepted over the years. Communications between alien commanders expressing doubt about their missions. Messages from Zephyrian soldiers, who were afraid of dying far from home. The alien fleet began hearing their own people's voices talking about fear, uncertainty, and the growing rumors that the human solar system was defended by something terrible. Psychological warfare, Mary explained to her officers. Make them doubt themselves. Make them remember that they are far from home, fighting an enemy they do not understand. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered 47 worlds, but they had never faced an enemy like this. The humans did not just have better tactics and hidden weapons. They understood war in a way that the aliens never could. Admiral Kekstar realized he was not fighting primitives. He was fighting a species that had spent their entire existence preparing for war. Every human strategy, every weapon, every tactic had been designed specifically to defeat the Zephyrian Empire. For the first time in his life, Admiral Kekstar was afraid. Admiral Kekstar made the decision that would seal his fate. As his ships burned around him and the human weapons tore through his fleet like paper, he ordered a full retreat. "All ships withdraw to safe distance," he commanded. "We need time to regroup and analyze their capabilities." The surviving Zephyrian ships turned and fled toward the outer edge of the solar system. Their engines blazed as they tried to escape the deadly crossfire of hidden human weapons. Of the 50,000 ships that had entered the battle, only 35,000 remained. Kextar thought he was being smart. In all his previous conquests, a tactical withdrawal had allowed him to study his enemies and return with a better plan. But he did not understand humans. Captain Roy Adams watched the alien retreat from the bridge of his stealth ship, Ghost of Gettysburg. His vessel was completely invisible to Zephyrian sensors, coated with materials that absorbed all energy scans. For the past 3 days, he had been following alien supply ships, learning their routes and schedules. "All stealth units, this is Adams," he said into his communicator. "The prey is running. Begin Operation Wolfpack." Across the solar system, dozens of invisible human ships began hunting. They had been shadowing the Zephyrian fleet since its arrival, mapping every supply line and communication relay. Now they struck, the Zephyrians discovered that their supply convoys were disappearing. Ships carrying food, fuel, and spare parts simply vanished without sending distress calls. Admiral Kextar began receiving reports that made no sense. "Admiral, Transport Group 7 has gone silent," reported his logistics officer. "They were carrying reactor fuel to the outer fleet? Send a patrol to investigate," Kextar ordered. An hour later, the patrol found the transport ships drifting, empty in space. The crews were gone, taken prisoner by human boarding parties that had appeared out of nowhere. The fuel and supplies had been captured intact, but the humans did not stop there. Commander Linda Hayes led Battle Group Pershing in pursuit of the retreating aliens. Her orders were simple: do not let them escape. "Admiral Collins, this is Hayes," she reported. "We are tracking the enemy fleet beyond Pluto's orbit. They are trying to reach their home territory." "Negative, Commander," Collins replied. "Do not let them leave our solar system. If even one ship escapes, they will return with reinforcements. Hunt them down." The Zephyrians found themselves being chased through their own supply lines by an enemy that seemed to know their every move. Human ships appeared where no ships should be, attacking from directions that should have been safe on Earth. Dr. Paul Chun worked in a small office filled with alien language books and psychological profiles. He was humanity's top expert on Zephyrian behavior, having studied their culture for 40 years through intercepted communications. "Admiral Collins," he said over the intercom, "I have completed my analysis of enemy morale. They are beginning to panic. The Zephyrian Empire has never faced extended resistance. Their longest conquest took only 6 days. We are now in week 4 of continuous fighting. What do you recommend, Doctor? Increase the pressure, make them feel isolated and confused. They are soldiers, but they are not warriors like humans. They fight because they are ordered to, not because they love battle." Collins nodded. "Understood. Begin psychological operations." Lieutenant Colonel Grace Kelly sat in a communications center surrounded by computers and translation equipment. She had spent years learning to speak perfect Zephyrian and studying their military codes. "All units, this is Kelly," she announced. "Begin Operation Confusion." Using captured Zephyrian communication equipment, Grace began sending false orders throughout the alien fleet. Ships received contradictory commands from different sources. Some were told to attack positions where no enemies existed. Others were ordered to retreat to rally points that were actually human ambush sites. Fighter Squadron ECMO, proceed to coordinates 347 to 891 for refueling. Grace said in perfect Zephyrian, using the voice patterns of their high command. The squadron flew directly into a trap, where human fighters were waiting. Transport Group Veloth, deliver supplies to Fleet Position Alpha 7. She ordered another group. Fleet Position Alpha 7 was empty space where human stealth. Ships captured the transports without firing a shot. The Zephyrian fleet began to fall apart from within. Captains stopped trusting their orders. Ships became separated from their units. Communication became chaos as no one knew which orders were real and which were human deceptions, but the real breakthrough came when Chief Engineer Mike Davis accomplished something impossible. He captured an intact Zephyrian frigate, The alien ship had been damaged and left behind during one of the human ambushes. Its crew had abandoned it, thinking it would explode. Instead, human engineering teams swarmed over it like ants, studying every system and component. "Admiral Collins, this is Davis," Mike reported from inside the captured ship. "We have hit the jackpot. Their shield frequency generators use a rotating harmonic pattern. Give me 6 hours and I can build transmitters that will make their shields." "Useless. Do it," Collins ordered, while Mike worked. Other human teams reverse-engineered Zephyrian weapons, navigation systems, and communication equipment. Within hours, humanity knew more about Zephyrian technology than most Zephyrian engineers. The breakthrough came when Mike discovered that all Zephyrian shields use the same basic frequency pattern. It was like finding out that every lock-in, the Empire used the same key. "All ships, this is Collins," the Admiral announced to the human fleet. "We now have the shield harmonics for all enemy vessels. Every Zephyrian ship is now defenseless against our weapons." The effect was immediate and devastating. Human weapons that had been blocked by alien shields now cut through them like they did not exist. Zephyrian ships that had seemed invincible suddenly became easy targets. Admiral Kekstar watched his proud fleet die around him. Ship after ship exploded as human weapons found their mark. His officers stared at their screens in disbelief. "Admiral, our shields are not stopping their weapons," his tactical officer reported in panic. "It is as if they know our exact frequency patterns." "How is that possible?" Kekstar demanded. "Sir, I believe they have captured one of our ships and reverse-engineered our technology." Kekstar felt his confidence crumble completely. The humans had done more than just prepare for war. They had learned to adapt and improve during battle. They took Zephyrian advantages and turned them into weaknesses. His communication officer received a message from the Zephyrian High Command, sent from their homeworld thousands of light years away. "Admiral Kekstar, report your status." "Expected." "Conquest timeline for the human system?" Kekstar stared at the message for a long time. How could he explain that the mighty Zephyrian Empire was being destroyed by a species they had thought were primitives? How could he tell his superiors that 50,000 ships were being defeated by humans who fought like demons and thought like machines? For the first time in his military career, Admiral Kekstar had no answer to give. 3 weeks after the Zephyrian Empire arrived with 50,000 ships, Admiral Kekstar sat alone on his damaged bridge. Only 8,000 ships remained from his once mighty fleet. His proud flagship Dominion's Edge was running on emergency power. Its hull cracked and bleeding atmosphere into space. The survivors of his fleet hid behind the ice planet at the edge of the human solar system, trying to stay invisible. But Kekstar knew the humans could find them whenever they wanted. The question was not if they would be destroyed, but when. His communication officer looked up from his station with fear in all 4 eyes. "Admiral, we are receiving a transmission." "From Earth," Kekstar nodded slowly. He had been expecting this moment. "Put it on screen." President Morrison appeared, but he was not in the White House Situation Room anymore. Behind him stood the rebuilt walls of what had once been the most powerful building on Earth. The structure had been destroyed in the first alien attack and completely rebuilt in just 3 days. "Admiral Kekstar," Morrison said in a calm voice, "I am speaking not just to you, but to every civilization in this galaxy that might be listening to this transmission. I want them to understand what happened here." Morrison gestured to the men and women standing behind him. 3 weeks ago, the Zephyrian Empire came to our solar system with 50,000 warships. They expected to conquer us in a few days, just like they had conquered 47 other worlds. But Earth was different. We had been listening to your radio transmissions for 150 years. We heard your battles, studied your tactics, and learned your weaknesses. While you conquered other worlds, we prepared for the day you would come for us. Kekstar watched the human president with growing dread. He knew what was coming next. "To any civilizations listening to this message," Morrison continued, "understand what you are seeing. Humans do not just defend our worlds. We make sure our enemies never want to fight us again. The screen changed to show General Rodriguez standing in what looked like a massive hangar filled with ships. But these were not the same human vessels that had fought in the solar system. These ships were bigger, newer, and covered with weapons that looked like they had been designed specifically to fight Zephyrians. "Admiral Kekstar," Rodriguez said, "meet the Terran Expeditionary Force, 10,000 ships carrying the finest warriors humanity has ever produced. Their mission is simple: carry this war to your homeworlds." Kekstar felt his heart stop beating. "You cannot mean to attack the Zephyrian Empire directly. Our home systems are protected by millions of ships." "Your home systems are protected by ships designed to fight primitives," Rodriguez replied. "We are not primitives. We are humans. And we have learned everything there is to know about your technology, your tactics, and your psychology." The screen showed the human fleet preparing to leave the solar system. Ships that had been built in secret for decades, crewed by soldiers who had trained their entire lives for this moment. "But Admiral," Morrison said, appearing again, "we are not without mercy. Admiral Collins has a personal message for you." "Admiral." Collins appeared on the screen. Behind him, the bridge of his command station showed tactical displays of both fleets. His voice was respectful but firm. "Admiral Kekstar, I have studied your service record. You are a good soldier following the orders of your empire. I respect that. But you need to understand what you have awakened." Collins walked closer to the camera. "Your empire conquered worlds full of people who had never seen war. You thought we would be the same. Instead, you attacked a species that has been fighting wars for thousands of years. We have fought with sticks and stones, with swords and guns, with aircraft and nuclear weapons. We have perfected warfare into an art form. Every human child learns about famous battles and great generals. War is not just something we do, it is part of who we are." Kekstar realized the terrible truth. The Zephyrian Empire had built their power by conquering peaceful civilizations. They had never faced a species that actually enjoyed fighting. "Your people do not understand war the way humans do," Collins continued. "You fight because you are ordered to fight. We fight because we are good at it. You see war as a tool to build an empire. We see war as a way to protect our families and our freedom. This was never going to be a conquest, Admiral. This was always going to be your surrender." The transmission ended, leaving Kekstar staring at a blank screen. His tactical officer spoke in a whisper. "Admiral, what are your orders?" Kekstar looked around his broken bridge at the faces of his surviving crew. They were young Zephyrians who had joined the military expecting easy victories and quick promotions. Instead, they had learned what it meant to fight humans. "Send a message to the Zephyrian High Command," he said quietly. "Tell them that Admiral Kekstar formally surrenders the 47th Conquest Fleet to the human forces." "Sir?" "Tell them we were wrong about the humans. Tell them these are not primitives to be conquered. They are warriors who have been preparing for this battle longer than our empire has existed." The message was sent across space at the speed of light, carrying news that would shake the foundations of the Zephyrian Empire. For the first time in their history, an Imperial fleet had surrendered, but the humans were not finished. President Morrison appeared on screens throughout Zephyrian space, speaking to billions of aliens who had never heard of Earth. "To the people of the Zephyrian Empire and all civilizations in this galaxy," he said, "humanity offers friendship and alliance to all peaceful species. We have no desire to conquer or rule over others, but to any civilization that threatens. Human worlds or human people, understand this. We have been preparing for you longer than you can imagine. We will find you, we will defeat you, and we will make sure you never threaten anyone again. The choice is yours." Years later, the Battle of Sol System would be studied in military academies across the galaxy. The Zephyrian Empire became the first member of the Terran Alliance, followed by dozens of other civilizations eager to ally themselves with the species that had accomplished the impossible. Dr. Amy Watson went back to teaching, but now her students were young diplomats preparing to work with humanity's new alien allies. Bob Martinez supervised the construction of the first human embassy on the Zephyrian homeworld. Carol Jenkins became the galaxy's first interstellar librarian. Preserving the history and culture of hundreds of species, the galaxy learned a simple lesson that day: never underestimate a species that smiles when you threaten them. They have been waiting for you longer than you know. Admiral Kekstar spent his remaining years writing a book about the battle. Its title became famous throughout the galaxy: The Day We Met Humans. The Empire had arrived with a fleet expecting conquest. The humans had smiled because they had been ready for 150 years. The galaxy had been at peace ever since.